Welcome to episode 3 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. Going to be a different kind of episode today because all three teams are in action tonight. The Islanders play against the Dallas Stars, the Devils play against Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Rangers are playing against the Vegas Golden Knights. So we figured we'd hear from you, the listeners. It will be a voicemail-focused episode. We'll also mix in some of our thoughts, maybe one thought per team. But generally, throughout today's show, it's going to be hearing from our listeners that are so kind so far to send us voicemails in our first 3 episodes. So without further ado, let's hear from our first caller.
Hey guys, longtime listener, first time caller, huge NHL guy, actually a fan of one of these 3 teams. Moved to Chicago a couple years ago to open a restaurant, and things have been going great. We love to have the guys come in after games. It's been awesome. We've been getting a lot of NHL talent recently, and I think it's because we've been holding these raffles where we give knife juggling lessons on the spot, and things have been good. I just wanted to get your opinion if you guys think that's a good idea to get more players to come to the restaurant, because so far it's been working. We've only had one minor incident. I don't think anyone's going to hear about that, but for the most part, I think it's been good. The guys really like the magic and the knife juggling. One guy gets to do it on the spot per night when they come in, and the food's been great too. We've got nothing but compliments. People are taking team photos and the whole thing. So do you guys think this is a good way to get more NHL talent to come to my restaurant? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks. Love you guys.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's not Lou from Chicago. That's Ryan Mead from Blue Shirts Breakaway. Very clever voicemail to kick things off, and I guess that leads us into our Jack Hughes conversation. And Rupper, I will start with you. First of all, just snaps to Ryan for that creative voicemail. But where do the Devils go from here, and what does this mean for Jack Hughes?
Where do they go from here? Well, no one's going to feel bad for them if they've got to be much better than they've been without Jack in recent times that he's been out of the lineup. I don't know. There's so many different ways to go with this. It's obviously it's unfortunate. It's brutal on a bunch of different levels for a bunch of different people, and as far as Jack for the team, I think for his teammates too. And so it's about I think from the positives. Let's try to stick there. I think it's a great opportunity for Dawson Mercer. I think he's going to get an opportunity here, and he's been really good this year so far. So these are things where I think you can get player growth by trying to manage this and try to give opportunities to other guys, other players, and get their confidence levels soaring, because there's a lot of that's a big hole. That is an enormous hole, and Jack is a gigantic reason why this team has been so successful this year. I'm kind of concerned because I just feel like with Jack, he's such the swagger to this team. And when he is out, they lack a lot of that. And it's understandably so, because he's such a driver for offense. So, it's just kind of, I don't want to say the moment of truth, because they've given themselves a great start. Probably is happening at the right time of the year. But I think there's a lot of question marks that you're going to want answered here in the next number of weeks.
Yeah, I agree that they need to answer some questions, but I feel like the way that they've been hit with injuries, Brett Pesce's been out. They haven't had Jonathan Kovacevic, who's not a big name, but a kind of an important guy for their decor. Dougie Hamilton's maybe back tonight, just getting back. Connor Brown's been out. Cody Glass, who we've talked about, now out week to week. They've been struggling with the injuries the way that they have a lot the last few years, and Jack kind of being the last, hopefully, in that line as opposed to the first like he's been before. Maybe that changes it up a little bit, and you certainly like their depth more now, and you like the fact that where they're sitting record-wise, when they're 12-4-1 when he went out, not kind of trying to figure themselves out middle of the season like they have been when he's had his big injuries. So I feel like they're better equipped right now. And if it is going to be 2 months, it's going to, the way the schedule is, that's probably 30 games or so. It's huge, and you don't want to see it happen. But I think the way that they're aligned now, the way that they've seen some things with guys like Arseny Griciak, with Connor Brown having such a good start when he's back, I think they've got the opportunity here to do better than tread water. You know, the East is nobody's scaring anybody in the East. They've really played well. Their decor, you got Luke Hughes, you got Simone Nemitz playing big minutes now. You know, maybe this is a chance to see, to see a guy like Jesper Bratt play huge minutes and kind of take charge and step up and, a little bit of a level in Stark status, I guess. You know, he's obviously a huge part of what they do, but I kind of want to, I'll ask you, Jonny, and I'll ask you, Rupp, you've been in these situations before on teams. When you lose a guy who is the straw that stirs the drink, but hasn't been able to stay healthy, do you kind of feel like, I don't know if we can classify this guy as a superstar anymore? You know, it's he has all the tools. He's an incredible player, but you have to be out there more than he's been out there to have that kind of impact and have that kind of status.
First of all, I think it's very kind of you to put me in the same category as Rupper when it comes to answering this question. I mean,
There's
I've
two
not
guys
played,
who played at a high level out of the three of us, so I'm not going to leave you out of it.
but again, like, I get what you're saying, but I think it's unfair to say that. Just because I know the best ability is availability, right? That's what people say. But if Jack were hurt for the playoffs, I think it's a different story. Like, if we see a healthy Jack come back when the injury's done and, it's in 2 months and whatnot. And I think the bigger question might be, because remember there was an argument like 2 years ago about if you let Jack come back for the All-Star game, like when he was coming back from injury, and like Devils fans were like, oh, he shouldn't play. If he's not playing for the Devils, why would he play in the All-Star game? I think we're going to have that same conversation about the Olympics probably, by the time he gets back. But if he's back and the Devils are in a playoff picture, he's still like one of the more dangerous guys in the NHL, right? So then I think he remains that superstar status in that sense. But I get what you mean. Like, you can't rely on him every year. You can't. If the Devils drop out of the playoffs and don't make their way back, then I think this is a real conversation. But until then, for me, it's a hypothetical. I don't know if Rupper has a differing opinion on that.
So first and foremost, my technical problems continue to be a thing here because I don't know if my mic is connected. So bear with me here. I'm going to try to.
You sound good
as we get going, but no, I mean, I get what you're saying, Arthur, but I mean, Jack is right now playing the way he's been approaching this year. He's in that conversation for me for a Hart Trophy. That's kind of what he's doing. So for us to say that, no, he's a superstar. The problem is that he had that 78 game season in 22-23. He's had nothing over 62. This is year 7 for him, or whatever it is. That's a problem. And the way that the way that I see it too, and I hate to say it this way, but whatever happens here, the storyline's been that he gets hurt playing the game of hockey. This wasn't that case.
Yeah.
This is we could joke around about it, and the call was phenomenal. And coming from a Ranger fan probably is even better. But this is no joke anymore. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, if you're going to be a franchise player for an organization, you got to find a way to be there every day. You got to find a way. And now the team right now is challenged with trying to find a way, and it's their job and the leaders and guys to step up in a big way to cover up for this. And that's what great teams do. And I want to also say and throw it out there, this seems like a pretty tight-knit group that no one knows what happened. And we're not here to try to elaborate and guess what happened. But at the end of the day, Jack Hughes is out still. And it's not from a hockey injury. That's disturbing. And it's disturbing because he hasn't gotten over 62 games except once. But again, trying to move forward from it, it happened early in the season when you're sitting in first place. So it puts a lot of pressure on Jack coming back. Think about it from that standpoint and how serious we were thinking this injury potentially could have been. Now he's got to come back. Like, is he going to be Hart Trophy level that he was? I mean, I would expect him to, because that's how good he is, but we just don't know. And it's a lot of uncertainty right now.
And if you're a Devils fan, like a bunch of my friends that are Devils fans are like starting to turn on him. They're like, we can't keep doing this every year, So I think he's got to face that music too. Like, we all know how he is with the questions when it comes to the media, but he's going to have to face those questions also of like, how can Devils fans continue to trust that you will be here and you will be available and you will be at your best for them to win a cup. Like, I don't want to put that pressure on Jack, but that's what I'm hearing from the people I talk to every day that are just my friends, the crazy ones, the loony bins, those Devil
I guess
fans.
the one thing I want to throw in there too, it's like, we've said it before, and I just want to revisit that now for Devils fans that are watching. You won't find a bigger Jack Hughes fan than me. Like, honestly, in the media, as far as like I said, I would take him over Austin Matthews, and I believe that. I think this guy's a gamer. I'm just frustrated because this keeps happening, and then I start thinking too, and I get it, and I fended for Jack, saying, let's stop talking about his injuries. Let's stop talking about. He keeps getting asked that question. He doesn't like it, and you can see it. And he's made comments to the media about not wanting to answer that anymore. And now this happens. It's tough, man. It's tough, and you hope that everything. 8 weeks from now, we're talking in the new year. He gets back. He's healthy. He's good. The Olympics are good. I hope, and comes back healthy. Like I think this is. You hope that it all goes that way, but we never know what the season's going to look like later. And this is supposed to be the Devils' year, and I think that's the most frustrating part.
And also,
and while we're talking,
quick point, just kind of a technical point. Obviously, they can't LTIR him because the new LTIR rules. You're not going to keep him out for months and months to get a little bit of cap relief. So that scenario is out the window. There's still a team that's in LTI right now. So thinking about some sort of stopgap measure without unloading another contract like a Dougie Hamilton's contract, or even Andre Palat, if you could find a taker for him, just to kind of find somebody to slot in there down the middle, because they were great down the middle when Jack was here, and now all of a sudden you've got Dawson Mercer that you're going to need back at center, who's been a wing from this whole season so far. There's not a lot of relief coming trade wise. I know that it seems like the rumor mill is pretty quiet in general with terms of trades. There's a lot of teams that want to shore things up, but not a lot of teams that are selling. Tom Fitzgerald's kind of stuck right here with this situation too. And the frustration, we can have these two competing thoughts, which are, this is a freak accident that happened to him. It seems like it was a decent outcome for what the injury was, that it could have been more season threatening or even worse than that. So you say, okay, it's a freak. It's not a shoulder. It's not a thing. It's not something where you're worried about it recurring. But also you can say, yeah, this guy has got to be there. If you're considered to be one of the 15 best players in the league, and he certainly was this year, you got to be able to be out there for more than, like Rupp was saying, more than 60 games a year. So when he comes back, he's got a lot to prove, and I'd be curious to see how he approaches it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair conversation, Arthur, and I love the creativity of even bringing it up. I think that's something that we're going to have to continue talking about throughout the year. But before we get into our next voicemail, do want to make like one point about the Rangers, one point about the Islanders, and then we'll kind of just go straight voicemails from there. And obviously the Jonathan Quick, Mason Appleton end of the game was a big topic of conversation, but I think it's important also to hear, Rupper, your perspective of what could be said inside the room. Like, obviously, we talked to Quick, talked to JT Miller and Cooley after the game and whatnot, but when the doors are closed, what does that sort of situation do or message sent to the team like that, when the goalie, to Arthur's point, the 39-year-old goalie has to be the one to step in and like give the team that they just lost to some pushback for what they felt is disrespect, or he felt?
I don't know, because I don't know if they have. We're thinking about that because I don't know. Do they have the right guys to say that? I mean, Quickie's not going to follow it up again and say anything, I don't believe. So do they have the right guys who can understand that situation and read that situation? I would hope, because I just think that we were talking about it in our thread, and I didn't think it was overly egregious what Appleton did, but the way I kind of view it is, I use this analogy all the time with empty nets, because remember, we had this in the NHL with Ridley Gregg in the Toronto Maple Leafs when he took that slap shot into the empty net. And there's a lot of contingency out there that's like, oh, this is stupid. This is the old school way of thinking. Like, if you don't want him scoring in the empty net, then why don't you do something about it when the game matters, and all those different things. And the way I kind of look at it is, I think people can relate to this maybe in Metro New York or New Jersey area, where it's like empty nets are like car horns. They've got their own language, And Arthur,
Okay.
if you're in front of me and light turns green, I give you a little hump. It's like, oh, fine, hey, let's go, Arthur. Whatever. If I'm gonna go like a longer honk, it's like, hey, buddy, let's go. Like, it's green light, pay attention. If I'm gonna lay on the horn, I'm like, wake the fuck up, Arthur. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, let's get moving. And I think empty netters are like that. So, and what I mean by that is Ridley Gregg. Let's start from the one. If you guys don't remember, look it up. Comes down against Toronto Maple Leafs, a rival, slap shot in the empty net. People lose their mind. He gets a cross check in the chin because of it, and he probably deserved it because I was like, fuck you. We won. And, you're a team that you want to have pride and whatever, and you're pissed off because you lost. And I understand the reaction there. On this one, it wasn't overly egregious because it wasn't that. But it's 2-1. The game's over. So you're either going for your cookie and throwing it in the net, or it's still a little, it's just like, it's not necessary. And it might be stupid. You might think it's stupid. And but the bigger thing is, I think, from Jonathan Quick's standpoint, and I wonder, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but Jonathan Quick, old school guy in a lot of different ways, the team has been struggling. And I think it's like, don't think because we beat Nashville on home ice and then we went down to Tampa and won, that all of a sudden things are all hunky-dory and we've turned the corner here. Like, fuck that. Like, let's do something. You're not doing that to us. Have some respect here. And I love the reaction. I absolutely loved it. Now, I got no problem with Mason Appleton doing it. If I'm on Detroit, I want to prod as much. You need emotion throughout an NHL season on every single team. So, but I think from the Rangers standpoint, like, my concern is why was it him? And I think that's what you're alluding to. Why was it Jonathan Quick coming off the bench, the guy that was incredible in the game? Like, why wasn't someone on the ice just going to be like, no, man, like, have some respect for, we're not going to tolerate that. So it's just another one of those instances over the last number of years where I'm waiting for the Rangers to show heart in certain situations. Even if you don't agree with it, just show me some emotion. And we didn't really get it until Quickie did that.
Yeah, I'll if it was just in a vacuum for me, if it was just this one game Rupper, you said it was, the play wasn't egregious. I think the game was egregious, the way the Rangers played, especially coming off a really good game in Columbus. It was the same 2-1 result. They won in a shootout, but they were engaged. They were tight defensively. Didn't give up a lot to a Columbus team that does generate a lot. And then they come back home, 42 shots against. I think it was 14 high danger chances for the Red Wings. Quick was flopping all over the place to try to get them a point. And then he's sitting on the bench. He's a smart guy. Obviously, he's been around. He's first ballot Hall of Famer. He's been an incredible addition to that locker room. And he's sitting there, and who cares if the horn goes? Appleton's going up the ice. He throws the puck at the net. You've got Artemi Panarin, you can see in the camera frame. You got JT Miller, your captain on the ice. You've got Adam Fox, alternate captain on the ice. Zibanejad, your star players, your core guys. And everyone's just skating for the exit door. And I'm sure Jonathan Quick, again, we don't want to put words in his mouth, but you know how he would think as a veteran. This is unacceptable. And, a couple people on Twitter, after I wrote something about it, said maybe this is going to be their Jacob Trouba throwing his helmet, wake the fuck up moment that happened a few years ago, where he after a dismal start to that season, where he got in a fight, got ejected, threw his helmet, yelled at the bench. And they did start to pick it up after that. It's disturbing to me that after all that went on last year, and so many of those guys that were on the ice were here last year for the malaise, the whatever you want to call it, that started at the beginning of the season and never stopped, that no one on the ice right there said, I don't care if he was half a second late. I don't care if he was 2 seconds late. I don't care if he did it with a smile on his face, whatever. You got to go over and pin him against the boards and give him a face wash. You have to do it. The Rangers need that. And the fact that it wasn't there and that the goalie, who was already on the bench, had to go do it, I think, to me, signals a real problem, that something hasn't been cleansed enough from last season to have these guys that are the core guys that are going to be here for a while, that you have to give a shit. You have to give a shit. Yeah. And if last year didn't happen, maybe you let it slide. But coming off last year, somebody has to show some fire there, and it shouldn't have been Jonathan Quick.
So let me ask you this, both of you, because I was thinking about it in other sports. And there is a relatable equivalence in the other sports to this. And again, I think there are people that probably like, what, this is stupid. Like, what are you talking about? It matters because you could say the same thing when in baseball, your team's up 6-1 in a 3-0 pitch and the guy hits a home run. We see that all the time and you're not good with it. Or in an NBA game in the closing seconds, game's done with. If a guy came in and dunked it, you'd be pissed. You should.
Mhm.
I'd be concerned if you don't react in those situations. Or, a quarterback is, instead of taking a knee to run out the clock, he's going to fake step back and throw a bomb for a touchdown. We don't see it in those sports because people would be irate. In hockey, we're taught that it's such a young age. It's about being respectful, and respectful is probably not the right word. All I got to say is if you're going to shoot it in the empty net like that in that
Yeah.
situation, you better know something's coming. And if it doesn't come, then I'm sitting there. If I'm Detroit, I'm like, this Rangers team's not for real. And they're almost were not for real if it wasn't for Jonathan Quick.
I agree with what you've both said, but also I think like knowing how goalies work too, Rupper, like in practice, if there's a goalie standing near a net, but he's not in the net, he'll dive in front of the puck if you're shooting into the empty net just to protect it. Like goalies are very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Weird.
I guess weird. Yeah. Maybe like religious about their net. That's like
crazy.
Yes, they are. So like if I'm on the ice, I'm just putting myself in like their position. Like once they saw Quick go, they reacted. But I think Quick reacts that quickly. But Quick reacts that quickly because like that's my fucking net, and no one's putting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You
I
guys
don't
are.
know if skaters feel that way. Like in
You
general.
you guys are making great points. I think if we're talking about this particular thing in a vacuum, I'm talking about it as the Rangers, the 25-26 Rangers. No one can let an opportunity like that pass. And I think, Mike Sullivan, we hope everything's okay with his family. He obviously wasn't there behind the bench the other night, but Mike Sullivan, David Quinn, Joe Sacco, I don't know that you have to say anything, but you're definitely taking a mental note that nobody except the guy that's won a couple Stanley Cups, who played his ass off in that game and didn't need to be hopping the boards again to maybe get in the middle of something where you're a guy who got all that goalie gear on and you played a long game. Yes, I get it. Goalies are nuts. And I get it, Rupper, that the empty net is a sacred space and it's got its own unwritten rules. This to me right here, you can't let it slide. If you're JT Miller, if you're Will Cooley, if you're Alexis Lafreniere, you are a guy that's a core member of this team that just came off one of the worst seasons on and off the ice that they've had in decades. And if you just skate to the exit right there, somebody's going to motherfuck you in the room, and they should. Somebody should stand up in that room if nothing happens on the ice and say, who are we? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we a team, or are we a bunch of guys that's just going to like get booed off the ice because we've lost 7 of 9 at home and we're just going to take it? Like the season is still could go a lot of different ways for that group. And that to me was a red flag that they haven't quite shaken off the stench of last season. And to me, it was bad.
Jonny and I have spoken about this before. And Arthur, I'd love to hear what you think about it because I think of just the last number of years in New York. And I've said this time and time again. That's why I thought that the JT Miller move was so big for this team, just to get an alpha in the room. I feel like this is a team of a bunch of good guys. And good guys are fine and dandy, but sometimes you need someone to go against the flow a little bit. And that's why I thought JT Miller, and I'm kind of disappointed maybe he didn't do something in this situation, but this has been a team that I think over the years just lacks emotion at different times. That's why the Jacob Trouba throwing of the helmet was a big storyline, spurred on, whatever. That's why Matt Rempe was a thing, because he injected energy into a team that does not have energy very much. So we joked around about it or talked about it when we got that great call on our voicemail line.
I don't think we joked.
The first episode. I mean, we sat there and we talked about like how MSG is sometimes like a morgue, and it is, and that's a challenge to fans to be louder there too. But like at the same rate, the players, let's inject some energy, man. Inject some energy. Like you should be starving for those moments. That guy shoots the puck in your net. That's a free pass. A free pass. Do whatever you want to do
Exactly.
right now. Show that this year's different. Thank God for Jonathan Quick. Otherwise, I'd be sitting there very concerned. But I think it needs. You asked it at the top. Is it addressed in the
Mhm.
room? I don't know. That's TBD. Maybe we'll never find that out. But it better be. It better be addressed in there. Why was it him and only him? You know?
Yeah. To that point too, like I was saying it the other night. I can't remember, I watch the Colorado Avalanche a lot, especially when they're on home ice. The Rangers never come out flying like that. Granted, Colorado is one of the best teams, probably the best team in the NHL right now. But when it comes to Madison Square Garden in the first 5 minutes of a game, I can maybe count on my finger once in the last 2 years where the Rangers have come out and I'm like, oh fuck, they're here to play.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but that's just how it's felt. The past couple seasons when it comes to coming out, like, how it is when you're playing on the road, like you got to weather a storm, right? I don't think anyone weathers a storm when they're coming into MSG right now. And that's a problem.
No.
The Rangers
Yeah.
record, I saw it. I think it's 0-6-1 now in the 9 games when they allow the first goal. 0-6-1 when they granted they got shut out in 5, so it's impossible to score first in those games. But you know what I mean? It's not good. They got to score the first goal at home and they got to get the crowd into it. That's really what's becoming a problem. But Arthur, let's talk about the Islanders before we get to the voicemails here to wrap up the show. I know you were having a discussion about Matthew Schaefer, and I'm kind of going to kick it over to you to take this any way you want to go.
Well, you're going to be involved, so pay attention.
Okay.
We've heard so much praise for Matthew Schaefer, all incredibly deserved. And, Rupper and I were talking about this, and I've talked about it with a couple other people around the league. There's always going to be a little bit of a backlash. If 100 people say the sky is blue, eventually you're going to get the 4 or 5 people be like, no, it's kind of like bluish gray, or there's a little white or whatever. There's always going to be people that kind of go against the grain of what everybody is saying, because we never get full agreement on any of these topics in the NHL. We can all agree, the 3 of us can certainly agree, that this is pretty unprecedented. It's incredibly unprecedented for the Islanders to have a young guy like this who's so poised off the ice and so incredibly poised and successful on it. I think the games that we saw, last weekend, Vegas, and then Utah, where he scores the winner in Utah, this kid he's special. And I think it's, Islanders fans, they lucked into him. Nobody knew he was going to be like this. It's all great. It's all one-way traffic so far. Now we're kind of edging over into a couple people asking, is he a Norris Trophy candidate? Is he up there with, they just played in Colorado. Is he up there with Cale Makar? And I think, and Rupper is going to back me up on this and expand on this for sure, I think we need to start pumping the brakes a little bit on throwing as many crowns on this kid's head as possible. He's 18. He's in a situation where he's gotten free reign. This to me is we've got Alexis Lafreniere to compare to, and we've debated him to death over his years in New York. Matthew Schaefer's coming into an Islanders situation where they absolutely have a need on D for a guy that can play the way he can play. So he's, Patrick Raw's running with him. It's been great. But, they're the 27th ranked power play with Schaefer running it. The power play has been shit for a couple of years. It's still shit. They're not producing enough these last 3 games, especially the game against the Avs, where I thought they played really well on Sunday, well enough to win. They didn't convert on their 4 power plays. So you're going to see him hit the wall at some point. It's just inevitable. He can't, he's not going to play 26, 27 a night at 18 years old and be able to withstand the kind of the grind that he's going to see through the league. So I feel like it's great. And the way that social media is, it can be very much where you see some clips, maybe even of, say, a certain morning show on this network where one of the hosts is talking about how we've never seen anything like this before with Matthew Schaefer. And I feel like this is essentially a 500 team. They're just above. They're going through this difficult road trip. They've got Dallas tonight, which is going to be a tough grind for them. Let's let the kid play and grow, and maybe save the hero talk for somewhere further down the road. Let's see him do it for a few more months in the dog days when they're playing every second night and the building only is 70% full and they're still hovering around 500. I want to see more of what this kid's made of. What we've seen so far is incredible, but it's 20 games. Maybe let's see 40, 60, 80, even 160 before we start anointing him one of the best to ever do it.
Okay, may I go first before Rupper
Yes,
counters?
Rupper's going to counterpoint you, and I can't wait to.
I've got a lot of thoughts. I really do. I stand by everything I've said that Matthew Schaefer is different. And I don't think the NHL has ever seen anything like this before. And I'll back it up right now because, again, the arguments that I'm getting when I say that comes from older gentlemen who reply saying, well, have you watched Bobby Orr before? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm fucking 29. I didn't grow up watching Bobby Orr. So maybe
Listen,
I'm wrong in that sense.
Neither did we. I'm 54 and I didn't grow up watching Bobby Orr. So I get it.
I don't think Bobby Orr's shifts are on fucking Instat, but if they are, I'll go watch it. Okay. But Matthew Schaefer, again, like we
They
talked
didn't
about
have
the
Live
guys.
Barn back then. No Live Barn or any of that.
But let me actually hit you with numbers. Like Bobby Orr had 61 points as an 18-year-old in the NHL. Like I'm looking at it right now. He had 13 goals in 61 games. Matthew Schaefer already has 7 goals in 19 games, 15 points in 19 games. Like everyone talks about Bobby Orr, Cale Makar now, the next Bobby Orr. Cale Makar, friend of mine, played in college with him. He came into the NHL as a 20-year-old, not at 18. He had 2 years of college under his belt, won the Hobie Baker, played against men. This is still an 18-year-old kid we're talking about. Not only is he doing it on the ice, but the fact that he's like this vibrant personality, everyone loves him. He goes on TNT, chirps Hank. He's having fun. He lets it fly. He's loose. Granted, to what Rupper will probably say, maybe it's getting to his head a little bit, and he can become a little cocky. But he's so.
I would never
wholesome.
say it. I would never say it. There's not one negative thing I could say about the kid.
There's nothing.
I'll get to my point. I'll get to my point.
Okay,
Keep going.
sorry. But it's like it feels impossible for this kid to have a hater. And that's something I've never seen. Like we have found problems with like every prodigy, right? Like Bedard doesn't play hard enough in the D zone and whatever. His personality's dry. It's dull. Macklin, not as much, I felt like negativity wise with him last year. Maybe just he was hurt and missed some time. And like that was the thing. But with Schaefer, again, it's more the personality for me than it even is on the ice. Yeah. Like this kid is the most lovable like 18-year-old phenom I've ever seen. I can't remember a kid stepping in and having this big of an impact. On my last point, Arthur, you should definitely agree with this. If you don't agree with this, then I'm going to lose my mind. But the Islanders and Islander fans have been craving something to be excited about for so long. They haven't had any personality, any like presence, right? In so long that's why even for me as a Ranger fan, it's almost like refreshing to not just like, it's the Islanders, who gives a fuck? Like, let's talk about Matthew Schaefer. Like, why not praise all the good things this kid has done? And that to me is why I don't want, like, I'm always a guy who like leans positive and I love seeing the good things happen in the NHL. And as long as this kid continues to do it, I'll continue to praise him. That's where I'm at.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think in his own way, we have not. I would agree with that. We have not seen an 18-year-old defenseman like this. And there's a bunch of different layers to that, especially in recent years. He's special, man. And so here's the background. I lived in Erie, Pennsylvania for 20 years, pretty much my entire adult life until 3 years ago I moved to New Jersey. And so I've know people who were there with Matthew Schaefer and playing for my alma mater in the Ontario Hockey League, the Erie Otters. I've asked people. I have not heard one comment in a negative light. This kid is the real deal. Huge props to him and who he is as an individual and how he's doing this right now. It's incredible. And he's everything right with what I want to be the face of the NHL. Like that's the kid. Let's go. This is where I have a little bit of a problem is the comps to Cale Makar. Let's just, first off, I don't think Matthew Schaefer needs any more pressure on him than he already has. He is carrying this organization right now as an 18-year-old kid, 19 games in or whatever the number is. And he's going to have that for a long time. So I don't want to put any more pressure on the kid at all. But there was a lot of people and still are a lot of people that wince when we say Cale Makar and Bobby Orr in the same sentence. Yeah. Now, I don't know where and what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. I think most people would all agree Bobby Orr is the best defenseman ever play the game. I think right now in year 7, wherever your number is he top 10, top 5, top 3? Cale Makar is in that conversation in some way, shape, or form. And everybody would probably agree to that to some level. I feel like that's to say Matthew Schaefer and comp him to Cale Makar is it's disrespectful to Cale Makar. It's like this is a player who's played 414 NHL games, 453 points. And again, I'm not picking apart Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer's not even at a point a game right now. You know what I mean? This kid's been doing it. He's got Hobie Baker, which Matthew Schaefer will get right now. He's got or sorry, not
Calder.
Yeah. Calder trophy. Well, you got Hobie Baker also. Yeah, Hobie Baker, Calder. You won a fucking Conn Smythe. He's a playoff MVP, and he's won 2 Norris trophies. Best defenseman in hockey. Everything that he's doing right now. So I'm just sitting there. I'm like, hold on a second. Like let's comp. You could say, oh, he does this like Cale, but to comp him to Cale Makar right now blows my mind, because if you're comparing him to Cale Makar, you're comparing him to Bobby Orr. Like, we need to pump the brakes a little bit. And plus, I don't think the kid needs that type of pressure on his plate right now.
So basically, what Rupper is saying, sorry, Johnny, is that, and I agree with it, is that nobody has a problem with what Matthew Schaefer is doing or saying.
None. I love it.
He's great. We have a problem with you, Johnny, for making these comparisons.
So here's the mix-up. We were talking about what Matthew Schaefer is doing right now versus like when Cale stepped in. Like, again, to the point, like Cale at 18 was playing in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, winning games 11-3. Like that's where Cale was at this stage that Schaefer's at. I don't think anyone's comparing Schaefer to the player that Cale is right now. I think it's the timeline that people are comparing. It's like, oh, if Schaefer is doing this right now, imagine what he'll be doing at the age when Cale stepped in. I think that's really what is the conversation.
It's to me, that's a little silly, because who the hell knows? Like,
that's
I would also argue in this, and this doesn't help for the people that are making those comps. Cale Makar played with a pretty damn good team right away, on a power play with Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen at the time. Like, so he's had more than Schaefer. Let's not do those comps yet. Say he does this.
I didn't do it. I was just reacting to it.
I'm not just saying Johnny, you. No, man. We hear this ever. And Michael Del Zotto, I was working with him yesterday here at the network. And he said, he goes, hey, I just want people to pump the brakes. Like, I love the kid. And that's the one thing I don't want to get lost here. And this is like a negative episode by me. Is it because my equipment and stuff for this pod is not working? I don't know if I'm pissed off or what it is. But this is like 3 straight things where I'm going on these rants where, like, here's the thing to remember, though. And DZ brought this up. Michael Del Zotto came in his first 50 games for the New York Rangers. He got a ton of Brian Leetch comps. Yeah. Brian Leetch. We're talking about Brian Leetch. And DZ's like, go look at the next 500, 700 games, what I look like. You know what I mean? It's just not fair. Like, I came in the league as a top 6 forward. My career, I had to hang on to play in the league. I had to find different ways to stay in the league. Like, it's just really tough. Because you know what's going to happen? This is what's going to piss me off. Is this is a good kid with a good head on his shoulders, and people are putting all these lofty goals. So if he's just a good minutes eating defenseman, top 4 defenseman, people are going to say he was a flop. And that's bullshit, because you guys put unfair real expectations on him. Because you're saying he's fucking Cale Makar after 19 games.
Islander fans are calling Emil Heineman the Swedish Ovechkin, so it's definitely not me. I'm just seeing what the Islander fans are fucking saying.
You know the wrong Islander fans. Most of them are just happy that this team is fun to watch. So let's leave it at that. Let's go to the voicemails now. We've had our debate. Let's get some positive stuff going.
Yes.
All right. I thought that was a positive, but Vic, cue us up. This is from Singsy again, big Devils fan. What does Singsy got for us?
Hey guys, it's your boy Singsy. Loving the show. Hey, I was at the Devils game Saturday night here in DC. I thought Sheldon Keefe just put on a masterclass with a limited lineup. A lot of injuries, some shock, based on what happened to Jack Hughes, and a couple of guys brought up. In fact, one guy even had LeChance had his NHL debut. Anyway, just the way he jumbled the lines, and even, choosing Nemec to end the shootout, I thought just was masterful. So love your thoughts on the job Sheldon Keefe's doing and what he's brought to the Devils, making the playoffs in his first year, and what it looks like moving forward, and maybe a little bit on why he is being successful. Thanks.
I'm going to hand that off to one of you guys. I wasn't able to watch that game in its entirety. So I can't speak to necessarily like the moves that Sheldon Keefe made. I mean, I love that he went with Simone Nemitz in the shootout, ride the hot stick, right? Like, why not go with him? But I don't know like what he did tactically or what he's necessarily done tactically with Jack out yet.
Yeah, so I like what he does. Sheldon, even I might have to double check this 'cause I'm pretty sure even before the Jack incident, he was shaking up a couple things now and again, just to like Sheldon does it in a way where, hey, I love this because it keeps everybody on your toes. It allows a coaching staff to know what buttons to push and what they can push down the road. But this is a team that's in first place. Things are going good, but he always is looking to be better in certain situations. We need to get line X going. And let's do it right now. Let's figure it out right now and let's move some pieces around. So I love that Sheldon does that, and then also putting Nemitz in the shootout, ride the hot hand, all those things. But also like let's continue to see what we have here in him because we've never seen him play this well this much. Let's see where it goes. And I think I think there's some coaches out there that would maybe say, well, we're going good right now. We're going to keep this going the way we're going. But if anything, I think this has allotted him the opportunity to experience and kind of experiment a little bit here. And I like that he's got the guts to do it.
Yeah, I think the way that you can, if you look at their metrics and some of their just specific numbers, their special teams have been really good, but a lot of their data is not great. It's pretty average so far, and I feel like you have to, if you're not doing, if you're not dominant 5-on-5, if you're not suppressing scoring chances consistently, you got to change it up no matter what the record says. And I feel like he recognized that Meyer, Heishier, Mercer line had really tailed off a bit for those some of the 4 or 5 games. So he flipped some guys around even before the Hughes injury, and that Gritziak Hughes Mercer line was dominant in Chicago, really dominant. And it's again another shame that we didn't get to see a little bit more of it too. And now he's got to load up, puts Bratt with Meyer and Heishier. They had a spectacular night in DC. He seems to be able to find one line or two lines, and they're it's good that they're deeper than they've been to be able to withstand maybe some of these injuries. But you're seeing him push some good buttons, and I feel like when he was in Toronto, a lot of the conversation was more around just because the media is so oppressive there, and there's always comments coming out and whatever that you should just be able to roll out, just like overturn the bag of pucks, and they've got the talent to be able to win games. And that's not it. He's a good coach, and I think he understands that they're in a great spot, hopefully to withstand this injury and get by. But they have to play a different. He wanted them to be playing a different way, give up fewer chances, even before the Hughes injury. And obviously, on D, missing Pesci is huge. But you can't just sit on your laurels in a situation like that 18, 19 games in. And I think he's done a really good job. And if they are able to withstand this and maybe tighten up, get a little bit more jam into their defensive game, to me, that's a no-brainer, Jack Adams. If you can pull away from this group, Marty St. Louis deserves some love. I think Marco Sturm early on, the Bruins are way better than they thought. Same with Dan Muse in Pittsburgh, first-year coaches, and they usually get a lot of love for Jack Adams. But Sheldon's doing a great job, and you have to hope it continues.
Yeah, well said. I got nothing. Next voicemail, Vic. This is from Chris.
Hey, this is Chris calling from Brooklyn. Islanders question here for Arthur and anyone who wants to hop in on this. You posted today about the Islanders special teams and the power play needing to be better. Certainly would have been big in the Avs game if they could have potted at least one power play goal to get that game tied going in late. Personnel wise, do you think Waugh will take Palmieri off power play 1 and put Lee there? I mean, I can't watch Palmieri, and I'm sorry, I'm not the biggest Palmieri guy over all these years now he's been on the squad, but I can't watch him take shots practically from the goal line. These impossible angle shots. He's not Sidney Crosby. I'm sorry. I think Lee in front, taking away the goalie's eyes when Schaefer's ripping him from the blue line or Horvat's taking him from the slot. I think they pop more goals that way. So let me know what you guys think. I've loved listening to the pod. It's great hearing some Isles talk, and I guess I'll settle for some Rangers talk, especially when they're not playing so great. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good one.
Thank you, Chris. Arthur?
Yeah, you know, I think back to one of the highlights of that Colorado game with Scott Wedgwood making this kind of Brodeur-like save where he threw his upper body at a Palmieri power play shot. So maybe we don't need to get, we need to sewer Palms that badly on power play one.
Right in
And
the bumper, right?
Yeah. I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of, he goes from net front to kind of his off wing side a little bit. But I think personnel wise, they're right where they need to be. You know, Anders was one of, it was him and Kreider for a long time in the East as kind of the two premier net front guys. And I think the last year or so, I think with Patrick Waugh there, he's kind of tried to phase out Anders as kind of the default net front guy. You know, Lee had a really hot start to the year. He's kind of cooled off a bit offensively the last few games. And I just feel like, they did have lots of opportunities. Wedgwood was really good. So you can't really pin it completely on power play failures. But when you have Schaefer, I feel like they've got the right personnel. You've got Drouin in one circle. You've got Barzal in the other. You've got Horvat in the bumper. Those are kind of your core four power play one guys, I think, on this roster. And really with Palmieri, he is good in tight. I think he's had a good start to the year. So I don't know if I'd change it up just yet. It's just becoming a little bit. They're 1 for their last 14 on this road trip, and they've obviously pulled out some wins, but the power play has kind of been a real bugaboo for them for a lot of years. And it's been a lot of personnel issues. They never really had a guy to quarterback the way Schaefer does, different than what Noah Dobson was able to do a few years ago. So I'll disagree with Chris and say, let's keep it the same and just kind of feel like they need something to change a little bit. And if just get a little bit of luck or something going, because when you see them at 27th, you say, I think we've said it about the Islanders. They're a very good 5-on-5 team, and their penalty kill has been pretty good. If they could have just sort of league average power play, that's an extra 4 to 6 points in the standings, which is huge right now with how tight everybody is.
When you say 1 for 14, do you mean the Vegas, Utah Avs road trip, not the Devils Rangers? Because didn't Palmieri score the power play goal to give the Islanders a 2-1 lead in Jersey?
He did. These last three going into tonight.
So just the last three, it's 1 for 14?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
I was going to say, go, Rupper.
No, just what Chris said there. He got a point. Like I think Anders Lee he's a big body that creates a little havoc in front there, and you know what you're going to get. But I'm a big fan of having some diversity with the shooting, having righties and lefties. And if you took Kyle Palmieri off and you put Lee out there, now you're going 4 lefties, 1 righty, and that 1 righty being Barzy, who's not a shooter. He's not a shooting threat, really. So Palms is and can be a shooting threat, and you may not like him shooting from the corner, but he is a shooting threat. And the way that I think in a perfect world, if they can get some good flow going, Bo Horvat might be the best bumper guy in the league. He very well may be, especially the way Braden Point's kind of been struggling this year. But Bo Horvat and then having Palmieri, them being interchangeable in some regards, doesn't matter what side the ice is on, you've got a big one-time shot. So I kind of like the way it is right now. But yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from.
I guess what I'll add, just like numbers wise, maybe Islander fans, 2 years ago, Palmieri has 10 power play goals. Last year, that's bumped down to 5. And maybe this year, it's a slow start to the power play, and that's why there's concern. But to both your points, Palmieri, does he not have one of the best shots and best releases on the team? He's a dangerous sniper from wherever he is. And what's he at? He's got 5 goals this year in 19 games. It's not like he's off to a terrible start. He's still got 5 goals to start the year. I don't know. I for me, to Rupper's point too, I think having that balance is important, especially with the point of Barzal not being a shooting threat. Because even at times with the way Barzal and Schaefer and Drouin move around up top, sometimes that allows Palmieri actually to slide out and become the one-time option, right? As a right-handed shot when Barzal is kind of cutting up behind Schaefer and picking up speed and attacking downhill. So you need that option. But But again, like I don't think the Islanders' power play has been nearly as bad as it has in the past couple of years, and maybe that's more credit to Schaefer. But we're done giving him compliments. All right, let's get to the next one, Vic. CJ.
Hey, fellas, just a quick question. Why is Connor Sheary still playing? Thank you.
Okay.
Johnny, take it away.
Yeah, that one's simple. You know what? I think a lot of Ranger fans are feeling this way and asking this question. And obviously, we can point to the ties with the head coach and whatnot. But, I was checking in on Hartford today. Brendan Othman has not scored a goal in 10 games, and Brett Berard scored his first goal this afternoon in 15 games. It's not like those two guys who would probably be called up to play over Sherry are lighting it up in the AHL. Like, they need to give the Rangers a reason to call them up. Maybe you guys disagree with that, but also I don't think Connor Sherry is like hurt the team by any means. I don't think he's necessarily helped them. I think he's kind of just like there and he's filling a position right now. And the upside might not be as much as maybe the Othman or Sherry, and that's where like the argument would be. But I think those guys got to prove it down in Hartford, even though they've gotten some looks to the NHL. They haven't looked like steady NHLers. And when you have a head coach who's won 2 cups with this player, and this player happens to be in your family, it's a little tough to take him out of the lineup.
Johnny, what do you think, since they just sent Gabe Perreault down after he got the brief audition? Are you of the feeling, and we talked about this last show, that we all kind of felt like Perreault should stay even if he's in that Sheary third line left wing spot? What do you think about Perreault being sent down and Sheary still getting kind of the 12-13 a night?
Yeah, I think for me, and I'll actually make this more about like even Will Cooley. I think Will Cooley is way more valuable playing on that third line with like a Noah Laba and maybe even a Johnny Brazinski than he is playing with Mika and JT Miller. I think Will defers to those two guys a little bit when he plays with them versus, being with Laba, he's maybe more of that like play driver on a third line that can get you 20 like he did last year. And with Gabe, I don't think Gabe like showed enough in the couple games that he played, but I don't think he was that bad. Like, yeah, there were moments where in the D zone, he struggled a little bit, but that's going to happen with any young player who's called up for the most part, right? The only thing I didn't like about it necessarily was that, and hindsight's 2020. They call Gabe up when things aren't going well offensively. They start putting pucks in the net, even if Gabe wasn't really the one doing it. He only had like 1 assist. And then they send him down and they score 1 goal at home against Detroit. Like, I know that's not really on Gabe per se, but typically coaches, when your team's winning, you don't really change the lineup for the most part. And for them to send him down after winning 3 straight games and they come home and have a dud like they did against Detroit, it's like, fuck, like what do we do that for? And we all talked about how the balance was so great when you have Gabe in the top 6 and Vinny back and whatnot. And then, the stinker against Detroit again. And the Detroit game was more so like, you can't win a game when you take 5 penalties. Like the high danger chances, Arthur, I think it was like 10 for Detroit on the power play. Like 10 of the 14 they got were on the power play. They had like 16 shots on the power play alone. So I think that was like the big reason why the Rangers blew that game, was just undisciplined. But I think for Gabe, I think he'll be back up sooner than later.
The power play, I agree with you. The undisciplined play, like that's where Detroit really started. They obviously scored, so that was a huge reason. But I also sit here and think, as we're talking about that, I don't know, maybe Gabe Perreault would have jumped over the bench and flew at Mason Appleton. I'm just saying, just want to lob that out there. Maybe that's what they would have needed in that situation.
It's a good way to stay with the big club, that's for sure.
Get the kids up here for some emotion.
Arthur?
I'm good. Got another voicemail.
You're good? Okay. Yep. Yeah, let's get to the next one. Jersey John.
All right. He's back.
With the theme music too.
Let's go. What's up, fellas? Hope you had a good weekend. That tune is called Devil's Dance. Devil's been dancing on the road trip so far. Let's go. Even though I got my blood pressure through the roof with all these OT games, not just them, the whole NHL. I mean, it seems like every game's going to overtime anymore, but just crazy. But 2 points is 2 points, man. And I'm feeling good right now. I hope you, like I said, had a great weekend. I was feeding, changing the baby's diapers, decorating the house for Christmas. Pretty active. Question for you is Jake the Snake or Markey? Who you putting in net? I have more confidence in Jake right now. I think he's been playing great going back to last year. Markey's just, I don't think, seeing the puck that well.
So who would you go with, man, in the game 7 right now? Also, let's give some love to Cholosky and White because those dudes been holding the fort down pretty good right now till we get some healthy bodies back. I mean, I think we got like 37 mil hurt right now. It's just insane. But yeah, man, great show Friday. Looking forward to Tuesday's show and let's go Devils.
I love it. I love it. Any of you guys want to start with this one? I mean, I could go if you want me to, but
I'll just say real quick. I mean, I
Yeah.
I would ride Jake Allen a little bit more, I'm marking. It's still early in the season. He'll get his game going where it needs to be. But that'd be the one I would want to chime in on. What do you got?
Yeah,
I would.
I'd go.
Arthur, you want to go? Yeah.
I'd go Jake Allen if I had to play a game 7 right now. And yeah, I definitely have a little concern about Markstrom. The early season injury is never good for a goalie. It was good that he got the contract extension out of the way at a decent number. But yeah, I still think most of their goaltending woes are because they're giving up too much. But you'd like to see Markstrom get in there and steal a game after coming back from the injury. We haven't quite seen that yet. So I'd probably, as they go along here, I'd like to see him still alternate. But I think they got to get Markstrom on a bit of a roll here in the next little bit because they got to be better in all. Everybody's got to kind of pick their game up with Hughes out.
Yeah, I was just going to agree to that and say that goaltending is now the most important thing for the Devils, right? Like they're going to need some games that they steal, you know. They're not going to really. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the Devils are going to beat anybody if they're letting in 3 goals a night. Like I think they're going to have a hard time scoring 3 or 4 every night now without Jack. But to Arthur's point, I think it's the best way to go about it is to split. Like if you're just riding Jake Allen right now, then you got Markstrom kind of rotting, and then he has a hard time finding his confidence. And then once Jake Allen loses the net, it's like, oh shit, I just lost my job, right? And then there goes his confidence. Then you got 2 goalies who are kind of looking for it. So I think splitting the net's probably the best thing that the Devils can do, for sure. But if it was a game 7, to answer the question from Jersey John, yeah, I'd start Jake Allen. All right, Vic, next one. From Anonymous.
Whoa,
Okay.
wow.
Interesting.
Hey guys, just really curious. I think it's no surprise that everyone thinks Rangers development is pretty much shit. Just curious what you guys would do to fix the Rangers development so we don't have these constant repeats of draft picks that are failing. Thanks, guys. Love your podcast.
The dreaded D word.
Yeah.
Development is I won't go on too long a rant here, but yes, they've been crappy at developing forwards, and that goes back a lot of years. And you think about all the picks that they had after the letter and the rebuild, guys that you just saw. Vitaly Kravtsov just had his contract terminated in Vancouver so he could go back to the KHL. Elias Anderson flamed out. The list goes on. Brennan Othman seems like he's going to join that group. It's been tough. And covering the Islanders like I did for so many years, there were a lot of the same things said kind of during the Garth Snow era, whether it was Josh Hosang or Michael Del Cole, first round picks that never really went anywhere. Development like that, it's such a different, people say it and they mean it they intend it to mean different things. I think some people kind of view it as, well, it's the team's responsibility to make a high draft pick into an NHL player, as opposed to if you get a high draft pick who just, whatever, injury,
flops,
lack of focus, whatever, knuckleheadedness, just doesn't pan out. There's never one reason. And it's been tough. And I think we can say pretty safely that a couple of the picks that the Rangers made, high picks during previous regimes, were not strong picks, just not guys that were built to be NHLers. But the rest of it, it's hard to know. When they took Brennan Othman in the first round a few years ago, guys that I talked to, scouts and people around the league, were really mixed on him. The Rangers were obviously high on him. He had a good post-draft year in the O, but I think some of the things that people identified about him, skating, offensive, his ability to create his own offense, these things kind of crept back up. And obviously guys like Kakko and Lafreniere, I think, are, obviously the jury can't be out on the Rangers and Kakko. It just never worked out there. And Lafreniere, I feel like we could do a whole show about him and what we've seen from him. But a lot of it is the situation you come into, like we talked about with Keandre Miller, with Laf and Kakko and Heel, bunch of different coaches, bunch of different systems. It's just not enough continuity. So it's such a hard thing to quantify and say, this is the reason why it's not working, or, like a Tampa, this is the reason why it does work in Tampa, that they're able to find these hidden gems and turn them into Stanley Cup winning NHLers. It's hard. I don't know what the answer is. And now that we're on kind of the third GM, I think for a lot of Ranger fans of not having good development, I guess it's a long way of saying I have no fucking idea what the answer is and why it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to you guys, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, I'll get it to you in a quick second here. I just when you're saying development to me is after the player's drafted, getting them to be an impactful NHL player or an NHL player for the long haul. I think the big thing is locating what it is. Is it bad drafting, or is it a lack of development, or is it both? You know what I mean? Like I think in some of these situations, like it's not. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like you talk about Faceoff, we're talking about some of these other guys. It's not like we're seeing these guys go. It's not like what we've seen in Buffalo. Like Buffalo has had a problem, but these guys go on elsewhere and they're all world. You know what I mean? Like to me, Buffalo didn't have a drafting problem. Buffalo had a development problem. And so you see these players going and being so great in other spots. So I don't know where it's at, I think, with the Rangers. I think from the NHL level, from guys that we've seen make it to the NHL, like that's what always intrigued me with Keandre. What it intrigued me with, like, I love Braden Schneider. I've loved him from the get-go. But why hasn't he developed like I thought he would? I thought he would be like the man. You know what I mean? It was going to be Foxy. Foxy's the guy, but this is like a total like different player that had a little bit of everything. And you go back to Laugh and you go back to Kakko, and I think it was just a strange number of years where those guys came up together on a team that was expected to win. And you had coaches that wanted to save jobs and not put these players in certain situations. And at the end of the day, like that's a bad spot to be in. So I guess I'll double down what Arthur said. I have no idea where the problem is, but it's certainly been a problem over the years.
I think it's more responsibility on the player than on the team. The plan for Matthew Schaefer was not to have him being this guy, right? He was going to be like a third pair guy, limited minutes
right now,
and he took it. And he took it. And we could talk about the Rangers too, right? Like, did they develop Noah Laba? No. Noah Laba got drafted in the 4th round. He played 3 years of college, and he stepped in and he earned himself a job. And that's on the player. Like, you can't credit the Rangers for Noah Laba's development. You got to credit Noah Laba and Colorado College for Noah Laba's development. When it comes to Lafreniere and Kaapo Kakko, sure, you can maybe point fingers at the Rangers, but that's because it was situational. Those guys didn't step in and have the whole world given to them like some of the other top players do. You know, Lafreniere was behind Kreider and Panarin and had to play third line. And honestly, like he kind of took that challenge and almost ran with it. Like the kid line was a very effective line in the playoffs in 2022. Like, were they up to standards or up to par of a number 1 and number 2 overall pick? Probably not, but they were effective and they were impactful. And again, like I wonder what Lafreniere would have looked like had he stepped into Ottawa instead of Tim Stützle. Like I'm curious what that would have been like for him, and I'm curious what Stützle would have looked like in New York. But also Lafreniere, to his discredit, didn't come in and take it like Macklin did. And again, different situation for Macklin, but Macklin took it. It's partially on the player and for sure partially on the organization. But I think at the end of the day, the responsibility should be more so on the player for not performing up to what they potentially could.
I'll also just wrap it up with, Tim Stützle goes into Ottawa and plays in all situations, and they fucking stink. They've been to one playoff in the time he's been there. Alexis Lafreniere has been to 2 conference finals. So if you're a fan of the Rangers, yes, when they're in a down period like they've been the last year plus, you can say, I want to see more from this guy. but you've seen a lot from the organization. You've seen a lot from the franchise. You've seen a lot from the team on the ice. So, is development in the modern NHL bringing in a high draft pick and letting him screw up and make mistakes and still play heavy minutes and in all situations? And then in 5 or 6 years, maybe you've got an elite player, but those 5 or 6 years are going to be terrible for the team and terrible for the fans. It's tough to say. I know that there's lots of fans that focus on that development piece, but I feel like if you're just a fan of the team and you want to see your team win, tough shit. Like you said, Johnny, you got to go in there and take it. If you've got veteran guys that are getting paid 9, 10, 11 million dollars around you, you got to go in there and show that it's, this is your top 6 job. This is your spot in the first power play. You have to be able to, it's got to be a mix of factors, and there's a lot of factors working against young guys on good teams, but you still got to make yourself a part of it.
And if I can, Rupert, just quick, because I think, honestly, this show is perfect for this conversation because you have the Rangers' top picks in Lafreniere and Kakko, who haven't really lived up to that number 1, number 2 over hype, even though Kakko's now gone. Then you have Matthew Schaefer, who's blown through the ceiling in year 1. And then you have a guy like Jack Hughes.
Greatest ever.
And then you have a guy like Jack Hughes, though, Arthur, who came in at 18. He struggled. He was very open about how much he hated that year. And now, 7, 8 years later, he is that guy. He is that superstar. But, there's still these struggles, and the team is still knocking on that door but not breaking through. So it's like the perfect balance of 3 teams right now in developing those guys where, as a team, hate them all you want, the Rangers have had the most team success of the 3. Probably. I guess the Islanders are similar, kind of, right? Because the conference finals in 21 and 20. But, it's interesting how these things work and situationally how different they are.
The one thing I just want to bring this full circle and actually combine 2 of these questions, because this is great. And you mentioned it, Johnny. Yes, it's players have a lot to say in this, and that's why drafting the right character and all those things and learning that stuff about players is so important. But let's go back to Connor Sherry here for a second, because when he was in Wilkes with Mike Sullivan, and we touched on that, and he comes up to the NHL, why did he get an opportunity to, this is an undrafted player. He gets an opportunity to play with Sidney Crosby because he had the trust of the coach. So no matter what your circumstance is, earning trust buys you minutes buys you opportunity, and that's where you get production. So I don't care if you're a first overall pick, undrafted, and you were lighting up college hockey or wherever you were at. Whoever your coach is in the moment, he has to trust you in certain situations. That's why Connor Sherry is in the lineup right now for the New York Rangers, because Mike Sullivan knew this from the get-go. That's why he got put up on that line. He's won 2 cups there. So, that's where it's at in the NHL. And that's the biggest thing, I think, for players to know coming in. I made it here, or I'm drafted, I'm here, or wherever I'm at. Look, keep your eyes down the road. Where I want to get there. What can I do today to get me there? It's not just, I got to score tonight. If that's your mindset, you're fucked. You're fucked. This is the National Hockey League. You can't sit there and be like, I'm drafted first overall. I have to do this tonight. I have to score goals. No. I need to get more minutes, man. How do I get more minutes? Talk to the coach, all those different things. So, I don't know. It's the players too. And maybe that goes back to not drafting the right players. I don't know.
No, it's a good point. A really good point. I think we got time for one more voicemail. So let's get to the last one here, Vic. Nicole.
Hey guys, Nicole here, calling from Manhattan, big time Rangers fan. My question is about the 6-on-5 strategy you're seeing from the Rangers. It feels like it's been a couple seasons since we've seen the Rangers really find any sort of success once pulling the goaltender at the end of a game. You watch teams around the league keep possession for a full 2 minutes with multiple scoring chances, and it seems like the Rangers either lose the faceoff or immediately give up possession and can't really get shots through. Are you seeing anything specifically, or is it just, losing board battles? Thanks, guys. Love the podcast.
Thank you, Nicole. You guys mind if I take this one quick?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As she was talking, Peter Baugh actually put out this stat the other night. The Rangers haven't scored a game-tying goal in the final 3 minutes of a game since March 2nd, 2024 from Vincent Trocheck. They did it 3 times in both the 2022-23 season and the 2023-24 season, and none since. So she's very accurate in her assessment of the fact that the Rangers haven't scored a tying goal in the final minute. And actually, after Peter tweeted that the other night, I went back and watched the instat of the 6-on-5 that the Rangers had against Detroit. And for me, it just seems like there's not enough movement up top. And Mika has been playing in this bumper position. He's been in the middle of the ice when, whether you think he connects on his one-timer or not, he's the most dangerous shooting threat the Rangers have. And the fact that he's not playing on his one-time flank takes away other options. If you have him on the one-time flank, that opens up the other side of the ice too, because guys are drifting more towards him because they fear his shot. That opens up Panarin. That opens up, maybe Will Cooley on the goal line. And the fact that they have Adam Fox and Panarin up top, just the two of them, they have 4 guys at the net. And Mika, to his discredit, I think we can all agree, he's not a guy who's known to be hungry around the net. He has no business really being in the bumper or being at the top of the crease. JT Miller came out up top to get it on his forehand and walk downhill, but JT should be the one down there with Will Cooley. Those are 2 motherfuckers that you don't want to battle in front of the net. So maybe the usage of personnel right now, at least as far as this year goes, could be maybe a little bit better. I'm not someone who ever thinks I'm smarter than a coach or would question a coach's decision, but Mika, to me, should be a one-time threat versus playing in the bumper. He's been in the bumper for now however many games, 20 plus games that they've played, and I don't think he scored 1 goal in the bumper. So I think it's time to maybe switch that a little bit. And again, the movement up top seems to be the biggest thing that the Rangers are lacking right now to throw off the 5, I guess, quote unquote, even though it's even strength killers in a 6-on-5. But that's what I would say about the personnel and the setup of the 6-on-5. That's not really been able to execute.
We've talked about, I like your points, Johnny, and we've also talked about the Rangers have a lot of redundancies in their top 6 right now. You've got Cooley, you've got Laff, you've got Trocheck, you've got Miller. When they had Chris Kreider here, you knew where he was going to be, and he was the best at that. When you knew that Panarin would be, kind of along the boards, or maybe for 6-on-5 coming back up to the top, you knew Fox would be walking the line. Their number of creatives, I think, has been reduced over the last couple of years, and that I think allows the 5-on-6 team to sort of key on, okay, we know Mika's going to be maybe in that shooting spot, or maybe in the middle. If Trocheck's out there, we know he's going to be in the bumper and kind of moving down towards the net. They're not surprising anybody anymore, and obviously the offense has just been so stagnant this year at times that they're probably not surprising. They're not being creative enough themselves. They're feeling a little frustrated, and that probably leads to some bad outcomes at the end of a game, and especially the end of a game like they played the other night, which was horseshit pretty much from the puck drop. So, and you can kind of tie the beginning of that stat from the beginning of last season to now. What's the main thread? They just haven't. There's just no
Hunger.
fight. There's no fire. There's no hunger in that team. And I know 6-on-5 is not always about that, but you got to cause some chaos, and you got to be cross-checking people in front of the net when it gets to be hectic and there's a puck down there. And if we're not seeing any of that from them at all during any game, why should we expect to see it at the end of a game that they're losing?
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest thing, I think. But to Johnny, your point too, I always find that in those situations, you still got to treat it almost like a power play where your biggest weapon is Mika's shot. Let everybody know Mika's shot's over there. Everybody is going to be aware that Mika's shot's over there. And if you have the puck on the other side of the ice, that's what it's the unknown that's behind you. And when you bring him into the middle there, I can multitask. I could be in a T intersection. I could take away a couple different options here. I could stay in striking distance of their most dangerous players. But if you keep Mika over there, everybody on the ice for the Rangers knows in a situation if I can get the puck over there, that's going to be probably a really good option for us. But at the same rate, it can kind of be a little bit of a decoy where you can do some other things. I feel like I feel like too many times, and it works a lot of times, you see some of these late 6-on-5 goals is just mucking it up at the net, just throwing bodies there, and it's great. But to our point, we're all agreeing on here, I don't think they got the guys to do that. They're not going to have the guys to do that. So they got to be a little more creative. I think if you can get Mika lost on that side, just keep him over there, do his thing on that side, be ready to pump that thing if it gets over there. I think you got to honor that if you're the opponent.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that's going to wrap it up for the voicemails for today. We'll be back Friday, obviously. You guys have any final thoughts before we get to our betting segment by Novig?
I think I want all 3 teams to give us something positive to talk about for Friday.
Yeah.
I feel like
last week they did.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. That's true. We need some. So I want to see the Rangers come out and just rip some heads off people. I want to see the Devils come and all the and do their thing. I want Matthew Schaefer to have a 5-point game. So me and Arthur
No, you
can go
don't. No, you don't.
we can go
If
stick
Matthew
it.
Schaefer has 5 points, I'll be the most annoying fucking person on the planet. If I'm not already. But let's get into our betting segment presented by Novig, the future of sports betting on Novig. You play against other real users, not the house, and it's the only commission-free exchange. So you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sportsbooks, meaning you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with the code Daily Faceoff in all caps. You get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states, and you must be 21 or older to play. No purchase necessary. And tonight, the best odds actually seem like the Devils on the money line. They're plus 151 going up against a Tampa Bay Lightning team that is still missing Ryan McDonough and Victor Hedman on the back end. The Lightning have been struggling as of late, and the Devils, despite not having Jack Hughes and a couple of guys in their blue line, I still have weird faith with how Tampa's played that the Devils can find a way to steal one this week one out tonight on the road. So pretty good odds with the Devils at plus 151, and that's what we're going to take tonight on Novig. That's going to wrap up episode 3 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. We'll be back on Friday, so send in your voicemails, and like Rupper said, hopefully there's some positive stuff to talk about. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch up with you later this week. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.